Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, E-Coffee with the Experts. This is Ranmay here, for your host for today's episode. And today we have Kaspar, who is the SEO consultant and co-founder at Search Brothers with us. Welcome, Kaspar, to our show.
Ranmay, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on the show.
Great. Kaspar, before we move any forward and pick your brains, we would like to understand more about your journey and more about Search Brothers, what you guys do, and we'll take it forward from there on.
Allow me to share a little bit from my journey, from my personal experience, and maybe share from the insights gained over my tenure, especially at Google, with the audience down the line. My journey started really in 2006 when I joined the Google search team, Google Search Quality at the time. And of course, over the period and over the years that I was spending working on Google Search on behalf of Google, that was quite a tremendous journey, a tremendous adventure, but also an opportunity to gain insights that are otherwise very rare. It's a huge advantage, something I enjoyed tremendously. I not only did fight spam, so I not only did investigate spam signals on behalf of Google, I not only did issue penalties or remove penalties, a matter of factly speaking, for those websites that repented and intended to get back into Google's good grace. I also had a chance to talk on behalf of Google as part of the outreach operations. And that was, again, a fantastic experience. Going out there, meeting publishers, speaking in public, publishing on behalf of Google, all of which I have done. And I'm tremendously grateful for that opportunity and the time spent there. One of the greatest assets and the greatest advantages, if you want, from my time working at Google is meeting on the very first day another employee, Philly Visa, a gentleman I had worked with for years at Google before we became business partners and before we founded searchbrothers.com, which is a data-driven SEO agency. Nowadays, we apply what we've both learned at Google and the experience gained thereafter. We apply that to the benefit of our clients. These are mostly large websites, large commercial websites that tend to be more visible and to sell more. And I want to say what we do is, again, greatly rewarding. I mentioned to you that prior when we had the opportunity to chat a little bit this morning. I love my job. It's just so much fun. You have the chance to work with tremendously motivated people, and you have a chance to really make a huge difference. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I do still go to conferences and share in public every now and then. I try to go to as many as possible, but of course, there are some limitations to that. It's going to be probably around 10 conferences in 2024. I'm looking forward to that. And on top of that, there is a handful of publications I do as well. But of course, the main objective of our operation is to help our clients to be more visible than their competitors. I think you're on.
Wonderful. Quite a journey, I must say. You have had an illustrious career, fantastic one, from being a member of Google Search Quality team to now being a founding member of Search Brothers. We would all want to know more about your journey and how it is few insights, few lessons that you have learned during this fantastic journey of yours that have shaped your career or your approach to SEO and web spam.
I think, how did it shape my approach? I think I learned very early on to appreciate the value of data. I still believe firmly that conducting SEO, and especially SEO consulting, is both an art and a science. And the art part is where the experience comes in. It makes a tremendous difference working on a new platform, understanding a new platform, and identifying how it can grow. It makes a tremendous difference if you have worked in that vertical prior. If you have worked on 10 or 50 or 100 websites that are comparable, you develop for the Marvel fans out there, a spider sense. You develop a sixth sense where you actually understand this is what I should be looking for. But that sense, that instinct, that intuition, that is only second to data, because it really is a scientific field where you can only make actionable advice, a firm pronouncement. You can actually only tell clients what needs to be changed and how to change it and which order to change those things if you have the critical volume of data. And the critical volumes of data pertains, of course, to the on-page part. So the websites have to be crawled repeatedly and utilizing a number of different crawlers in order to verify data. You have, of course, to dig in the code yourself. So you have to have some level of technical acumen. But there is, of course, the other factor, which is off-page. And that very much includes backlinks. And how backlinks and how off-page signals interact with on-page content and technical signals. Understanding these fine changes that have an effect on each other and how these translate down the line to Google algorithms, to calculations, and to rankings down the line. That's the scientific part. So in order to answer your question in a nutshell, what was the main thing that I learned early on while working at Google is the fact that data really is key to Google search success. I believe you're muted.
As someone who has been on both sides of the SEO spectrum, Kaspar, what do you feel are some of the common misconceptions that you've encountered in the industry once you got to the other side of the table, right? And how do you feel that businesses and website owners can avoid falling into these sort of traps?
This is a question I'm particularly fond of because even while working at Google Search, I always felt like being part of the industry. There is, of course, a slightly different perspective. And I give you that, but I never saw it in mere terms of us and them, or I never saw it in terms of there being fans. In the end, we share a common goal. The goal is to rank for relevant queries, for relevant and converting traffic. And in that sense, Google's objective isn't in opposition to SEO consultants' objective or to publishers' objectives. So from a very early beginning, when I started going on behalf of Google to conferences and to speak on behalf of Google, I mingled and joined and interacted greatly and from a very eye-level perspective with peers, SEO consultants at the time. I met a lot of people back then who became actually not just future peers and colleagues, but really friends. I want to say that as well. So at that point in time, when I left Google as a company to create our own brand, Search Brothers, and create our own agency, it didn't really feel like changing the site so much as in changing the brand and still interacting with the very same people. I didn't really think of this situation to be one where there is an awful lot of conflict. It might be perceived at some forums, I give you that, where there is disgruntled publishers. And these are, of course, most vocal when the websites fail to be quite as visible as people would like them to be. But this is really rather the exception than the norm. So I always thought that the perspective that we are striving to attain a shared goal is the one that I embrace, and that's really the correct one, meaning you can rank within Google for anything that you as a publisher have content, really. And Google doesn't, and there is no glass ceiling. Google doesn't mind how much traffic is coming your way. Matter of factly speaking, if you have the content, if you can live up to user expectation with your platform, with your landing pages, Google will shove huge amounts of traffic and it will never be capped in any way. There will be no bottleneck. The only bottleneck is making sure that Google bots, Google algorithms understand our content, that they understand our technical signals. So that's where we come in. So I never thought that this was a conflicting situation. I always thought we were really pulling towards the same direction. And that inclusive approach really served me well. I made a lot of friends, and as our industry is very small, so it is good to be in good grace with a small, I almost want to say, elite group of people who enjoy doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. And then talking about your background with web spam fighting, we would love to understand a few sophisticated techniques that you encountered during your time in the industry. And how do you feel that these tactics have evolved over these years?
That's an interesting question. I've been discussing this with Philly lately because we have quite a perspective looking back on all the years. And of course, even nowadays, we encounter clients who either have legacy issues to deal with or clients that have been doing things unintentionally that may be in violation now because policies changed and so far and so forth. I'm surprised from the individual perspective, from a rather limited perspective, when we work with a couple of hundred of clients over the course of a year, I'm rather surprised to say that old school methods are still out there. And I know one of your questions is around backlinks. So I want to preempt that we do see sites that have been building that pass PageRank that have been out there for not a year, not 2 years, but more like for 5 years or a decade or even longer than that. And they have, and I want to say from a Google vantage point, they have been getting away with it, right? And I still think anybody should be building their website the way they please. Anybody should be building their backlinks as they consider right for themselves, as long as they are familiar and fully aware of the risks that this kind of link building entails. But to answer your question, there are websites out there that are successful, cutting corners and really going outside Google Webmaster Guidelines. Now, do I think this is the most promising way? I do not believe so, for a number of reasons. I think it's a huge business risk to violate Google Webmaster Guideline / Google Search Essentials nowadays. And the reason for me saying that is because the moment that the moment that the website or the websites are being penalized, the waiting period starts. You not only have to clean up the site, clean up your act, and apply for reconsideration, but there is also no confirmed turnaround time for the reconsideration request to be processed on Google's end, meaning while your website or websites are under penalty, you have to wait. You cannot do new releases. You're essentially not making any money. Your visibility is impaired. It's not great, right?
Absolutely.
Now, achieving the same goal of high visibility is often possible. And in this instance, I've been talking about that at a couple of conferences. In that instance, backlinks are a very good example because every operation has a rather limited budget at some point, right? So you can toss the budget that you have at link building. You can do that. But you can also take the very same money, and frequently, that link building is really link renting, because the moment you stop paying, those links tend to disappear. Another topic, right? Another facet. So you can take the very same budget, and rather than building links, you can make your website just faster than your competitors. Now, every other factor aside, roughly similar, let's say for a moment, if you have several websites, Google always picks and chooses the fastest website. And the reason for me saying that is very simple. Google considers user experience critically important. Faster websites tend to be favored by users. So the faster website will rank higher than the competitor websites. So while it is possible to build links and get away with it, it entails a risk. Making your website faster is something that serves your users well. It's something that serves you in terms of Google visibility and rankings very well. Why not invest something that is very much long-term? And performance is just one fact, right? Performance is just one aspect. There are so many more technical aspects that can be improved. What I'm trying to say is it's possible to embrace gray hat and black hat techniques and be successful with it. But from a business risk perspective, it is probably not the most prudent course of action. And there are really much bigger fish to fry out there if you want to be long-term successful in SEO in competitive environments.
Absolutely. And then talking about website and content, moving a website or content to a new domain can itself be a very daunting process, right? Or let's take an example of rebranding for that matter. So what best practices that one should follow, Kaspar, as per you, and potential pitfalls to consider when undergoing such a transition? And how can you actually minimize the impact on SEO while going through that phase?
I'm glad you're asking, because it's a huge topic and often underestimated up until the point in time when it may be already rather late or already too late. So it's not just the rebranding that is being considered a migration. You can have a migration while you're changing your domain, your brand. That's true. But you may be changing your content management system, and that's a migration as well. You might be acquiring a competitor and converging those two sites. So a migration of two sites together, that would be a migration as well. The one thing that really has to be done in advance, and long-term planning is your friend here, is conducting an audit. What do we have? We need to understand, what do we have here to begin with? And as a side note, 9 out of 10 of our listeners do not save and preserve their server logs, right? Now, I hope after listening to our show, they will, because if you save and preserve your server log, you're in a much better position. So when you are preparing a migration, the first thing to do is to do an audit, a technical audit of the existing website, including your server logs, to understand what kind of liabilities am I looking at, and do I want to transition those to the new platform? Because at the point in time when the new platform comes into existence, let's say for a moment it's a brand new domain, never seen before by Google, when that domain is being then crawled, from a Google perspective, that's a brand new site. There will be 301 redirects. Of course, you can transition some signals, of course, but you want to make sure you put your best foot forward. So not transitioning any of the old liabilities to the new system is a very good recommendation. It is much more a complex topic, and there are very different scenarios depending on what actually is supposed to be happening. So if I may suggest maybe two things to any of the listeners contemplating doing a migration. Plan long-term. If you come to us or any other service provider and say, we have a migration in 3 weeks, can you help us? We would love to, but it's already too late. In 3 weeks, there is not much that can be done. Plan really long-term and definitely conduct a technical SEO audit of the platform before the migration and preferably one thereafter, if you can, if that's possible, if that's within the budget. If you can only do one, do it before. So you will not be sorry to transition all the stuff that's been holding the old website back to hold back the new site after the release.
Brilliant. I love the pitch midway into your answer, right?
Yeah, it is still an opportunity, isn't it? You have to try.
Absolutely. We all should keep trying. Great. Yeah. Lovely. Kaspar, in the field of content and brand building, as per you, what innovative content strategies have you found to be most effective in today's so much of competitive digital landscape, especially in relation to SEO and brand visibility?
So this is a twofold question, but I want to talk about brand first because brand is not a direct SEO factor. We have to acknowledge that just because I have an awesome brand, I will not rank higher.
Absolutely.
But brand has a huge impact on user signals. So when we all imagine a situation for a moment where we type in a query for any kind of whatever it is that we're looking for. I'm a bookworm. I'm going to type in a query for a particular book I want to buy. I'm confronted with the results, and the one I would click on as an average user is the brand that offers the very same book. It's all the same brands, but I'm going to click on the site that I'm familiar with because I know the brand, right?
Right.
This is something that translates to CTR. So first we have the impressions, right? And impressions is an important factor. And towards that purpose, Google Search Console is fantastic, really. But it's not just that. The CTR, the click-through rate, when it's high, indicates to Google that the user actually believed that particular landing page to live up to their expectation, that it is what they've been looking for. Now, this is one isolated user signal. It is not to be taken lightly. Just high CTR will not save us because we also have to live up to expectations. So the landing page that the user clicks on has to load really fast so they don't return. And we, of course, have to provide what they've been looking for. So we have to meet or exceed their expectations. Otherwise, they would go back. Right. They would refine the query and look for something else. When the latter part happens, that's really bad because Google would understand that this was not a good result for the user. And if it happens on scale, the website will plummet. But if we are a brand, we already have done the job halfway through because we will be most likely to be clicked on. So building a brand, a consistent brand, is very important, right? And that is aside from the content. The brand is something that people recognize. Brand recognition is extremely important in a long-term SEO strategy. It will not make you rank. It will much improve your user signals. And this is what will, in the end, make or break the website's visibility. Content is a different story altogether because content very much depends on what kind of website you're operating, right? And when I talk to business partners, it is frequently something they bring to the table. Of course, I'm not going to talk about AI solutions for a moment, because I think this is maybe a deep